28 degrees on a cold morning. And we have lots of animals at the feeder. They enjoying that free food. We still have an antler showing out there, but I think maybe just one. I think we're down to one. I'm talking one antler, not one deer with antlers. One antler. I think maybe that might be the one of the two that's had two antlers for several days, really for a couple of weeks. TC lost his really early, but that means that he'll be ahead of everybody else in growing too. I think that's TC right there in the big middle. It looks like him right there in the dead center. The feeder just went off. We have lots of guys and girls and babies out there. There's really more guys out there than you think. That's a big guy right there, right beside that tree to the right of the one-antlered deer. That's definitely a buck right there. Lost his antlers. And, of course, TC, we know. I think the other buck back to the right, where there were those four are right in the center. I think that's a buck as well. I think there is at least 4 bucks out there, maybe 5. 28 degrees, so it's pretty chilly. Deer over in a prayer circle. A pretty good little wad of deer out there, a bunch of deer. Kind of some behind the trees and stuff. Really looks nice. Eat up, boys and girls, eat up. We got 0-degree temperature headed this way. May not quite get down to 0. Forecast for like 2. 2. That's not very much. It's going to definitely, and our forecast, some snow. Not much here, but in places up in northeastern Oklahoma, up around Sherry's forecast possibly as much as 4 to 8 inches. That's a pretty big discrepancy, 4 to 8. But they don't really know, but we know that we've got moisture coming in from the west and cold charging down from the Arctic air. Coldest air we have here in Oklahoma, obviously, Arctic air. So, guys and girls, they'll be fluffed up here in a couple of days. Well, tomorrow. Tomorrow's when it's supposed to start. So we'll wait and see what happens. But we know it's going to be cold, very cold. The deer caller has definitely showed up. Keep in mind the majority of those deer are wild deer out there. And by the way, I said earlier this morning that all the deer have probably lost their horns except that one that's got one antler left. There is a 2-antlered buck out there. Keep in mind that the majority of those deer are totally wild deer. Look how close they are to Apache. Now, Red Tag's out there with her 2 babies. Her 2 babies have been totally raised here since even though they were raised in the wild. And there's bucks right there. Pretty soon we'll be able to tell the bucks pretty easily. Look how close Apache's walking to those deer. Within 5 or 10 feet of them. They never even raised their head. That's how confident they are. And there's a couple of bucks right there. There's the buck right there in the middle, and that's a totally wild buck. That buck is not raised here in the pen. 100% wild. You see how close he stayed to Apache. And that's the one that's got both of his antlers. That's probably his first set of antlers, perhaps his second. He's not very big. There's a buck right there behind. You can see his nubbins sticking up. Or not nubbins, but there comes 3 more wild ones coming in. Well, I don't know if they're wild or not. I know 2 of them are wild, those 2 babies. The doe could have a tag in her, I don't know. All right, and there's another deer coming up behind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know how many deer out there. There's a lot. They're doing a little sparring. They're doing a little sparring for the food that Apache has thrown out. The more aggressive deer are trying to keep the other deer from getting to the food. All they do is just run around and get on the other side and hope they'll find somebody that's not so ugly. These deer could stand listening to my daily devotionals every day. I hope that all of y'all are listening to those daily devotionals on the Catch a Better Life channel. I promise you, if your life is not absolutely perfect, that deer's life is not accidentally perfect. I think that was the buck that got chased away by the doe. But if your life is not absolutely perfect, you get involved in that channel, Catch a Better Life. We're reading from the Catch of the Day book now, which is a scripture from the Word of God, a devotional I wrote about fishing, and a fishing tip for every day. You can get that book at jimmyhouston.com if you want to follow along with us as we read. We post those videos at 5 o'clock every morning on the Catch a Better Life. There's a one-horned deer right there. Got one antler left. Catch a Better Life channel on YouTube. 3 channels we have on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to all 3 of them. Jimmy Houston Outdoors Fishing, where all the fishing stuff is. And make sure you subscribe to all 3 of them. Oh, he's a little aggressive too. They're pretty aggressive around food. They really are. The old man, he said, I'll just leave, let y'all have it. That's TC right there. The old man. 7, 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, I don't know. He's way on it there. He still keeps making it. He hangs around the house here. When deer get older, in fact, what they get 3 or 4 years old, during the rut especially, they are very susceptible to be caught by coyotes and bobcats and mountain lions. They get thinking about the girls. They're not getting quite as many girls as they've been used to because the younger bucks will the guy just having fun out there. And a little zoomies going on. But they get fighting the other bucks. They get cautious, they lose their caution. They're not cautious. They lose their caution. And you get a pack of coyotes after them, and they'll start chasing them and run them a while, and then another one will jump in and run it for a while. And if they ever get a hold of one, they hold on to it, and if they ever get them on the ground, and their history, if they ever get them on the ground, no matter how big and mean they are, how tough they are, a pack of coyotes can sure take down. That's how a lot of the guys that are, save those bigger bucks, try to let them get 5, 6, 7 years old and pass them up and never see them again the following year. That's normally what has happened to those deer when that happens. It's a shame, but it is the circle of life. It's terrible, but it is the circle of life. A lot of those guys wish they'd taken that deer when it was up there 150, 160 score, but they're waiting on it to get higher. Of course, in some of the high genetic, high fence areas, 200 score, waiting on it to get to 300 or whatever. Never killed a 300 score deer. But probably never will. I'm getting to hunt very little since Chris got sick, but I sure am enjoying the deer. The highly publicized winter storm, supposedly one that sets records, has arrived. And it's 32 degrees. That's a little bit of freezing rain out there. Not much, but just a little bit of freezing rain. The deer are feeding up. I don't know if they understand or realize how cold it's going to be, but definitely going to be cold, no doubt about that. But it's really not snow. Kind of looks like snow over there in the distance, but I think that's just a little light freezing rain, very light. And the deer kind of in a bad spot to see, but a lot of deer out between the house and the lake this morning. And they seem to know because they are feeding up really, really heavily. I noticed that yesterday. So we'll see how today goes. Watch the temperatures. Temperatures 32 degrees right now. On the other side of the house, the boys are feeding. Big TC there. I say the boys, I think those others are all bucks. One's still got his horns left, so he's definitely a buck. I think the other 2 are bucks also that's lost their horn. 32 degrees, so that is just now turning icy. And it got colder throughout the night, and will get colder throughout the day. It's just barely after daylight right now. And the deer, well equipped for this kind of weather, but oh my gosh, this kind of weather, oh my gosh. I don't think any of the rest of us are. 32 degrees in the north wind, chill temperatures already down there pretty low, but nothing like it's where it's headed. So we'll watch it for the next couple of days, see what happens precipitation-wise. That's all going to happen today. And temperature-wise, that's the big story. And we're in far southern Oklahoma. The rest of Oklahoma, as you go further north, it's going to get as much as 8 inches of snow, they predict. So this is definitely a big winter storm happening right here toward the end of February, middle of February, I guess we'd say. Just barely past the middle. And hopefully the last hurrah for Mr. Winter. I don't think it's going to be quite the last one, though. But this is going to be historic. They tell us. So we'll see. We'll see. The ladies and their babies are still feeding in the yard, but headed toward their little hunker down hole for the day, I believe, which is going to be, I think, in that draw over there. The deer will be able to get down in a lot of bottoms to get out of the wind as this temperature drops throughout the day. And they're kind of working their way that away. And I think they're going to go right down there and get in that little holler. Baby's playing around a little bit. Looks like they're in prison with the bars there. But they're not. They might rather be in prison today. Prison had a heater. You just wonder how they'll act with this cold weather. They seem to know. Yesterday they sort of fed all day long, it seems like. So today they're still early, but they appear to be on their way to the woods. I dropped my phone. We may not see much of the deer for the next 24 hours. As we look out, we see that the moisture's quit, and did have to take the rain gauges in. You see the rain gauges are gone there off the deck, and they were just covered in ice. You can see the ice on those old lights sitting right there, the ice on those lights. The ice is not too bad on that deck, the front deck, and that's not covered with the awning is solid ice. And went out there and just about slipped and fell a minute ago until I all of a sudden realized about what I was about to do, and got real cautious real quick. But the temperature has got down to 20 degrees. I was when I was out there, I was going to take a picture of a big bunch of mallard ducks that was right there in that calm water. You see the wind's out of the north, and so you see that calm water there. Out of the wind, the ducks love to get in there, and sometimes there might be like several hundred right in that area right there. There are none now because as I went out there to kind of just make a little walk around the yard and kind of see what 20 degrees and 25 mile per hour wind felt like. And it felt like exactly what it is, a wind chill of 3 degrees. That's what it felt like. So we probably are going to get down below the freezing, or below zero on chill temperature, in fact, but then probably going to get down in single digits tonight. And but hopefully you'll see some ducks. I have seen a few deer around throughout the day every time the feeder went off. A few deer showed up. You can see over there on the other side of the mountain, that is ice on those trees over there. You see a little white look to all of them. That is ice on all those trees. And now, I have seen it happen in the past, and I don't know exactly what all caused it, but I've seen highways be covered in ice, and it gets so cold up in Kansas, sometimes when we're up there pheasant hunting, that they freeze dry. Yeah, that's right, they freeze dry. So it's going to be interesting to see if the ice that we have here in Oklahoma on our roads and on porches and driveways and sidewalks, see if that ice freeze dries when it gets down to that zero temperature or so, or close to it. Maybe zero, minus zero in a lot of places in Oklahoma tonight. Keep in mind, we're clear in southern Oklahoma, but I can tell you, it is a cold, cold winter day out there. Wind chill temperature, 3 degrees right now. We'll check it before dark. We still got another hour or so to go before dark. We'll see what it is as it gets a little later dark. See if some more deer show up. The deer are hunkered down right now quite a bit because it's pretty brisk on them as well. Actually, only about 15 or 20 minutes ago that Benelli ran all the ducks away. That was in this little area right here, getting in there where it was nice and calm and getting out of the wind, where they had a little protection from that wind. And a bunch of them has already come back. And as a matter of fact, as you kind of scan down the bank, you see quite a few in there. They're pretty rascals right there, aren't they? And they're kind of all along in close to the shoreline there. Little wads of them, little bunches of them. A guy could hide in that brush pile right there and definitely have him a very good duck hunt. When it done, let behold the duck. It does not luck, it quacks. A cluck it lacks, it quacks. When it dines or sups, it's especially fond of a puddle or pond. When it dines or sups, it bottoms up. Long butchered that Ogden Nash poem. Behold the duck, it does not cluck. A cluck it lacks, it quacks. It is especially fond of a puddle or pond. And when it dines or sups, it bottoms ups. Got it right that time, Jimmy. Ogden Nash, famous, I believe, American poet. Kind of looks like a big bass come up and ate that duck. I think the duck's got white on his white breast, white on the bottom. See him? See him when he bottoms up? Got white. Pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, buddy. Down to 18 degrees, by the way. The last 15 minutes, we lost a couple more degrees. We're gonna run out before the night's out.